Welcome to Heartbreak Chronicles. My name is Michael Thompson, and at the time of writing this story, my wife Jennifer and I have been married for exactly 20 years. We met in college and were married shortly after graduation. We have two lovely daughters. The oldest, Emma, just left for college, and the youngest, Ashley, is still in high school. Jennifer and I have been overwhelmed watching them grow up day by day. Emma going off to college was a major turning point. It was a state university 2 hours from home, and she shared a dorm with her best friend. Ashley hasn't decided which college to go to yet, but will likely follow in her sister's footsteps. The sisters, like most siblings, inevitably had some arguments, but at heart they were close and always looked out for each other. Emma leaving home for college has left an emotional hole in our lives, but we are all excited for the new chapter in her life that is about to begin. As a partner in a large accounting firm, I am kept very busy. Jennifer works as a supervisor for a building materials company, a job she got when she returned to the workforce after both of her daughters were in school. Although she majored in English in college, with her ability, she has risen step by step in the company to her current position. I make more money than Jennifer, but our lives are undoubtedly comfortable, with a nice house, newer cars, and other nice things to enjoy in life. Most importantly, Jennifer seems to enjoy her work. It was a Friday afternoon, and I came home from work an hour early. Remember that Ashley has a school-organized camping trip this weekend and won't be back until Sunday night. I can't help but smile when I think about it. It means I can have a romantic two-way with my wife. Maybe go to our favorite Italian restaurant for dinner, and then come home for some intimate time that we haven't had in a long time. We've both been feeling a little distracted since sending Emma off to college, and maybe a weekend without the kids would be just the thing to help us get that feeling back. When I pulled into the garage, I saw that Jennifer's car was already there. It looks like she came home early from work too, so maybe she and I thought of the same thing and wanted to take advantage of the opportunity to enjoy the two of us. I'm going to suggest an Italian restaurant to kick off our weekend. I didn't see her in the kitchen, so I headed toward the bedroom to see if she was there and to change into something comfortable. As I walked toward the bedroom, I called out, "Honey, I'm home. Are you in the bedroom?" "Yes, Michael, I'm here," she replied. Walking into the bedroom, I saw Jennifer sitting at her side of the spacious dresser, focusing on her makeup. She was wearing the black dress that made her look especially glamorous, the pearl necklace I'd given her last Christmas around her neck, and her high heels sat neatly at her feet. I noticed her overnight bag spread out on the bench, already filled with some casual clothes and underwear. "Oh my God, Jennifer," I said, a little confused. "Did I forget we're going away for the weekend? I must have a terrible memory. Where are we going? I can pack it up quickly." Jennifer turned to me, a flicker of unease on her face, but quickly regained her composure. "Michael, I'm sorry, but I didn't tell you I had a date this weekend. I would have expected at least another hour before you came back. I didn't want to discuss this with you before I left. I knew you'd be angry and want to argue, but I really didn't want to argue with you." I stood there in complete disbelief. "What? You're going out with another guy for the whole weekend? Are you crazy? I don't remember us agreeing to have an open marriage. Please tell me this is just a joke and you're actually planning a weekend trip for the two of us, right?" Looking at my wife standing in front of me, I felt like my world was spinning out of control. In 20 years of marriage, I never thought I'd face a scenario like this. Jennifer continued to apply her makeup as if it was something perfectly ordinary, which made me even more angry and confused. My mind went blank. My mouth opened, but I couldn't speak. I could only stare at the wife who seemed to have been replaced by a stranger. In our bedroom, time seemed to freeze. The sunlight coming in through the window was still warm. The clock on the wall was still ticking, but everything seemed so ridiculous at the moment. We've been through so much together in 20 years, built a beautiful family, raised two lovely daughters, but at the moment, it all seems unreal. Jennifer seemed to sense my shock and anger as she put down the makeup in her hands and turned to face me. There was a hint of apology in her eyes, but more than that, there was an inexplicable determination. "Honey, it's just a weekend. When I come back, everything will be the same as before. I knew you'd understand." She sounded as normal as if she was discussing tomorrow's weather, which made me even more incredulous. "What the hell are you talking about? We've been together for 20 years. How could you?" My voice shook a little from anger. Michael, let me explain. Jennifer stood up and walked over to me. It's just a vacation weekend. I'll still be your wife when I come back, and nothing will change in our marriage. I've been feeling low since Emma left for college, and I needed this change to feel better. She paused and continued. He's 10 years younger than me and a married man with children of his own. This won't develop into a long-term relationship, I promise. It's just about intimacy, that's all. Out of the nearly 1,000 weekends we've spent together, just this one, can't you understand? I felt a wave of vertigo, as if I were standing on the edge of a cliff. 20 years of trust fell apart in this moment. So you think that makes it okay? Betraying our marriage vows just because you feel the need for a little excitement? You don't understand, Jennifer sighed. He makes me feel special and attractive. Even though I was so much older than him, he still found me attractive. I'm not leaving you. I would never do that. I just need to make sure I'm still attractive. Will you give me that chance? Just this once. I stood there and felt my heart being torn to pieces. Suddenly, a thought flashed through my mind. Rachel. She was my assistant, and we had a special emotional connection after her husband David died in a car accident. But at that point, we both chose to keep our distance and honor my marriage. Now this dusty memory has suddenly become so clear. Outwardly, I tried to remain calm. Since you've already made up your mind, I don't think there's any use for me to say anything. But tell me, who is this man? Jennifer shook her head. His name doesn't matter. I'll call a Uber so you won't see him. We've only had lunch together a couple times, and I assure you I haven't betrayed you. And I'm not going to let this develop into a longer-term relationship. Okay then, I took a deep breath and feigned resignation. But I have one condition. You must keep your cell phone on so I can reach you if necessary. I'm not going to follow you, but I need to know I can find you in case of an accident. Jennifer seemed pleasantly surprised by my compromise. Sure, I promise. Thank you for your understanding, Michael. I promise I'll make it up to you when I get back on Sunday. Watching her continue to pack, I walked out of the bedroom and into the den. The moment I closed the door, I pulled out my cell phone and rummaged through my contacts. I remember Rachel saying before she left the company that I could always contact her if my marital status changed. We all laughed at the time as a joke, but now, my fingers trembled slightly as I found Rachel's number. The number hasn't been used in a long time, and I'm not even sure it's still in use. But at the moment, it's like a lifesaver. I looked at the time. It was almost 5 p.m. Jennifer should be leaving soon, and I'm about to start my counter program. I took a deep breath before dialing the number. That phone call would change everything, but since Jennifer had chosen to betray, there was no point in me continuing to play the role of the perfect husband. The phone rang 3 times before a familiar voice came through. Hello? At that moment, I felt my heart beat faster. Rachel's voice was warm as always, with a hint of curiosity. Michael? It's been a long time. How have you been? I gripped the phone tightly, trying to keep my voice steady. Rachel, it's been a long time. I think I need to talk to you. Jennifer just told me she's spending the weekend with another man. There was silence on the other end of the line for a few seconds. When Rachel spoke again, her voice was filled with concern. I'm so sorry to hear that, Michael. Are you okay? Do you need me to talk to you? Just then I heard the sound of suitcase wheels rolling outside, and Jennifer should be getting ready to leave. I lowered my voice and said, Rachel, do you remember what you once said if my marital status changed? Before I could finish my sentence, Rachel picked up, Yes, I remember. Would you like to meet and talk? Looking out the window at Jennifer's back as she got into the Uber and left, I felt a wave of relief. Yes, I want to meet. More than just a chat. After I put down the phone, I had unusually mixed feelings. Rachel says she happens to have a date this weekend as well, a blind date set up for her by her sister. But she didn't hesitate to offer to cancel to be with me through this difficult time. We agreed to meet in an hour at that Italian restaurant in town, the one I had planned to take Jennifer to. As I drove to the restaurant, the past kept coming back to me. Rachel was my assistant when she first came to the company 5 years ago. At that time, she was energetic and extremely competent, and was recognized as the right hand of the whole department. She and her husband, David, are the envy of everyone as a model couple, and they have an adorable son, Kevin. David is an executive at an up-and-coming technology company with a thriving career. Every time David came to pick up Rachel from work, I could feel that sweet vibe between them. But fate is unpredictable, and that rainy evening changed Rachel's life forever. David was driving home from an important M&A meeting when an out-of-control big rig ran a red light and took his life in an instant. I'll always remember that night when I got Rachel's desperate phone call, her voice so shaky she could barely speak in complete sentences. In the days that followed, I helped her in any way I could. I contacted the best lawyers to sue the at-fault company, and after a grueling lawsuit, ended up winning a sizable settlement for her and Kevin. But more importantly, I was there for her through the darkest times. I remember getting calls from her sometimes in the middle of the night, and she would break down and cry because of a dream about David. During that time, I often went to her house, accompanied Kevin with her homework, and helped her with various tedious tasks. During those days and nights, a certain special bond developed between us. It was an amazing feeling, as if there was an unspoken understanding between us that needed no words. When I look into her eyes, I can often feel the ripples within her, and she always seems to pick up on my changing moods. But we're both very clear about where the line is. I'm a married man and she's at the most vulnerable time of her life. In the end, we all chose to be sensible. Rachel voluntarily applied for a transfer to another department in the company, and we reduced our personal contact. In parting, she said, "Remember to contact me if your marital status ever changes." We all laughed at it as a joke at the time, but we didn't realize that it was now a reality. Pushing open the door to the restaurant, I caught a glimpse of Rachel. 5 years later, she's still as elegant as ever. Her black shoulder-length hair was slightly curled and her gray and blue dress framed her slender figure. The years seemed to have left some marks on her face, but gave her a little more maturity. When she saw me, she gave a warm smile. "Michael," she said as she stood up and gave me a hug. I didn't really expect to be reunited in this way. Her body heat and the scent of her perfume sent a heartbeat racing through me. The waiter poured us red wine, and we began to talk about how things had changed over the years. Rachel tells me that Kevin is now a sunny, cheerful teenager who excels on the school's basketball team. After buying a new house with the compensation money, their lives gradually got on track. She's tried a few relationships, but none of them have gone further. Honestly, she sips her wine, none of those people know me as well as you do. Maybe that's why I never got a fresh start. I unconsciously compare myself to you on every date. I looked her in the eyes. "Rachel, about that year." She shook her head softly. "We both made the right choice. You honor your marriage, and I need time to heal. But now." She didn't finish, but we all understood what she meant. After dinner, we decided to go to her house to continue the conversation. The moment I pushed the door open, a wonderful feeling came over me. The place is cozy and artfully decorated. There were pictures of Kevin's basketball games on the wall and a piano in the corner, which he told me was specially bought to fulfill Kevin's desire to learn the piano. "He misses the company of a father," Rachel said softly. "Sometimes I think of David when I watch him practicing at the piano," she said with a slight catch in her voice. We sat on the couch in the living room and talked about the past and the present. Without realizing it, we were getting closer. I saw tears glisten in Rachel's eyes as she talked about how she suppressed her feelings for me back then. At that moment, I couldn't control it any longer and kissed her gently on the lips. In that moment, it was as if time stood still. Years of suppressed feelings came pouring out like a drowning flood. Our kisses grew deeper and hotter. When we parted, Rachel had tears in her eyes. "I've waited so long for this moment." That night, we finally crossed that line. In the presence of the moonlight, our bodies and souls were perfectly attuned. There are no words to describe the feeling, as if we were born as one. As I held her, I could feel every tremor in her body, the emotion finally released after years of repression. When I woke up the next morning and looked at a sleeping Rachel, I felt a sense of peace that I had never felt before. The sunlight poured through the curtains and framed her face beautifully. In this moment, I knew I had made the right choice. At breakfast, we began to discuss the future in earnest. The aroma of the eggs and bacon that Rachel had fried for me by hand was a cozy feeling that I hadn't felt at home in a long time. "I can't stay married to Jennifer," I said, even without meeting you. Her betrayal has brought the marriage to an end. She treats our marriage like child's play and thinks she can take as many weekend vacations as she wants. Rachel held my hand. Michael, I don't want you to make decisions on impulse. We can take our time. I interrupted her. No, Rachel. It's not impulsive. The truth is, Jennifer's betrayal opened my eyes to a lot of things. Between me and you, that's real and deep. I've been lying to myself all these years, but now I finally understand what true love is. What about Emma and Ashley? Rachel asked, concerned. Are you sure you want to tell them the truth? I'll have a talk with them. They're not young. They should understand. Emma is off to college, and Ashley will be soon. Most importantly, I'm going to be honest with them. Rachel leaned over my shoulder. What about Kevin? Do you think he'll accept our relationship? He's always thought of you as an important elder. Give him some time. I stroked her hair. I'm sure he'll understand. Over the years, he's lacked a father figure. Maybe I could fill that role, not to replace David, but to care for him and love him in my own way. And so it was that fateful weekend when we finally put aside all our concerns and decided to be brave enough to come together. Looking out the window at the bright sunshine, I knew that a whole new life was unfolding. Except, there was another tough moment waiting for me, the conversation when Jennifer returned on Sunday. But at the moment, with Rachel by my side, I feel stronger than ever. We agreed to start our new life as soon as I was done with Jennifer. After saying goodbye to Rachel, I returned to my empty home. This place, once full of warmth, seemed strangely alien at the moment. I sat down in an armchair in the living room and began to wait for Jennifer's return. The clock in the room ticked, each sound like a reminder that the marriage was coming to an end. At 9 o'clock in the morning, the private investigator sent in his first report. I didn't want to read those details, but I needed hard evidence. Jennifer and Peter looked so close in the photos, in the resort's restaurant, by the pool, in the garden. I felt a wave of revulsion when I looked at the photos, but at the same time, I was even more determined to make my decision. Around noon, I got a call from Peter's father-in-law. As the owner of the company, his anger was obvious. I'll make him pay, he snarled over the phone. No one tarnishes my daughter's marriage like that. I pleaded with him not to fire Jennifer just yet, at least until after our divorce proceedings had begun. He agreed, but Peter's career was clearly over. I called Emma and told her as politely as I could what had happened. She was silent at first, then suddenly burst into tears. Daddy, I'm so sorry. I can't believe Mom would do this. I reassured her that it wasn't her fault and asked her not to contact her mother for a while until we had talked about it in person. Around 2 p.m., I heard a car pull up outside my door. Through the window, I see Jennifer getting out of the Uber and dragging her suitcase towards the house. To my surprise, she actually had a smug smile on her face, as if she had just had a normal weekend trip. That smile that used to make my heart skip a beat is now giving me a tingle. I adjusted my sitting position to make sure I could see the entire foyer. During the time I waited, I had my cell phone set up and ready to record the ensuing conversation. Maybe this evidence will come in handy in the future, maybe it won't, but I need to protect myself. Jennifer pushed her way in and her smile got even bigger when she saw me. Honey, I'm home. Her tone was light as if nothing had happened. See, I told you, nothing has changed. I'm still the same person. This weekend will be good for our marriage. She puts down her suitcase and walks toward me with a graceful demeanor, as if this were an ordinary return from a business trip. You know what? I'm feeling better now, more energized. I could go change into that favorite nightgown of yours right now, before Ashley gets back, and we could dash before she could finish her sentence. She was cut off by my icy stare. Was it Peter who convinced you that a weekend of betrayal wouldn't have any consequences? I asked calmly, eyeing her reaction. As expected, Jennifer's expression instantly froze when she heard the name. You. How do you know his name? Her face suddenly turned pale and her voice began to shake. You said you wouldn't follow me. That was our agreement. I pulled my cell phone out of my pocket and slowly placed it on the coffee table. I did keep my promise not to follow you personally, but I hired a private investigator to do it for me. Thanks to you keeping your cell phone on makes this job incredibly easy. You know, Modern technology is so convenient. Jennifer stumbled back a few steps and fell onto the couch. You can't do this? This is too much. It's an invasion of my privacy. Excessive? I sneered, feeling a surge of anger well up in my chest. Which do you think is more excessive than a woman who's been married for 20 years hanging out with another man for an entire weekend? By the way, do you know how Peter's father-in-law, the owner of your company, reacted when he found out about this? Jennifer's face turned whiter than paper. What? No, it can't be. You told them? But. She couldn't go on. Her voice choked. I had the detective send the investigation report and photos directly to them, I continued. And it looks like Peter's perfect career is coming to an end. As for you, I suggest you better be prepared on Monday. But I specifically asked them not to fire you for now. After all, you'll need to start a new life soon. Jennifer broke down and tears came to her eyes. How could you do this to me? I told you this was just a weekend thing that wouldn't affect our marriage. You didn't have to be so extreme at all. Impact. I stood up and looked at her condescendingly. The moment you stepped out of this house, our marriage was over. You think you can go and betray our marriage vows like you're on vacation? Just because he's 10 years younger than you and can talk sweet? No, it's not. Jennifer suddenly fell to her knees and threw her arms around my legs, tears wetting my pants. Please, Michael, we can undo this. I know I'm wrong. Peter means nothing to me. Those intimacies were ordinary, far less than being with you. I promise I'll never do it again. Please give me a chance. I gently pushed her away and walked over to the window. It's already too late, Jennifer. And I have to confess something to you. Jennifer lifted her tearful face. What is it? Please don't say you want a divorce. We can go to marriage counseling. We can start over. I wasn't home alone this weekend either. I take a deep breath and turn to face her. Rachel and I are reunited. Rachel! Froze Jennifer for a moment, then realization dawned on her. You mean the widow Rachel? Your former assistant? Suddenly, she stood up, her voice becoming shrill. So you betrayed me too? Then we're even, right? We can pretend it never happened and start over? I shook my head, looking at her frantically grasping at hope, but my heart was unusually calm. No, Jennifer, it's not the same at all. You chose to betray first, and I just found true love. Over the years, Rachel and I have always had special feelings for each other, but we've both chosen to keep our distance because I respect our marriage. But now, I can finally stop repressing this feeling. No, you can't do this. Jennifer's voice was getting weaker. You can't ruin 20 years of our marriage because of one weekend of my faults. Think about Emma and Ashley. Think about everything we've built together. It's not just about a weekend. My voice remained calm. It's about your attitude toward marriage. What do you think our marriage is? A game that can be suspended at any time? A promise that can be betrayed at will? I walked to my study and pulled out a stack of prepared papers. This is the first draft of the divorce agreement. I'll give you a reasonable alimony and the house can be left to you. I've told Emma what happened, and when Ashley gets back, we'll tell her too. I'd like you to cooperate to make the process less painful. Jennifer sat paralyzed, her makeup long since spent. You're even ready for this? Are you so sure you want to end our marriage? Have these 20 years meant nothing to you? It is because these 20 years have meant so much to me, I said, that your betrayal is so heartbreaking. Rachel and I have decided to be together. The bond between us is real and deep. And you treated our marriage like child's play. As I watched Jennifer break down, I was surprisingly calm. It was as if everything that happened this weekend was destiny for me to find true happiness. Jennifer's betrayal did hurt me, but it also gave me the courage to pursue true love. I suggest you take a good look at this agreement, I continued. If you cooperate with the divorce proceedings and don't try to paint me as the bad guy, then the private investigator's report and the photographs won't be made public. You can tell people that we broke up peacefully, just because the relationship fizzled out. It's better for all of us. Jennifer looked up, her eye makeup already a spent mess. So this is the end? 20 years of a relationship is over? Yes, I said, this is the end. You chose that ending yourself, when you decided you wanted that weekend vacation. The living room fell silent. the only sound being Jennifer's intermittent sobs. The sun is still shining outside the window, but this home is no longer my haven. I knew that a whole new life was waiting for me, and it was all thanks to Jennifer's betrayal that I had the courage to pursue true happiness. Time flies, and 10 years have passed in the blink of an eye. Rachel and I are as happily married as we could have hoped. We soon had a child of our own, a lively boy we named William in honor of Rachel's late husband David's father, though we all affectionately called him Billy. A year later, we welcomed a beautiful little girl, Elizabeth, whom we all called Lily, after my mother. Kevin, as we expected, quickly accepted this new family. He's now a handsome college student who excels on the varsity basketball team. Watching his heroics on the court, I'm often reminded of something Rachel once said. He needs a father figure. While I will never be able to replace David, I am happy to fill the role in my own way. Emma and Ashley are both doing well too. Emma went on to become a successful architect after college, while Ashley chose medical school. What was even more gratifying was that they both understood what happened back then and accepted my relationship with Rachel. The births of Billy and Lily have brought even more joy to this reorganized family. It's Emma's wedding day. She is going to enter into marriage with her longtime boyfriend, Tom. Lily served as the flower girl and Billy delivered the rings, and both kids were beyond excited about their tasks. The wedding was held in a quaint church, with sunlight pouring in through the stained glass windows, adding an air of sanctity to the scene. I haven't seen Jennifer in 6 years. When I saw her show up at the church, I have to admit she looked pretty good, though not as radiant as Rachel. Over the years, I've heard that she went through some tough times with the company, but eventually earned the position of regional manager through her ability and hard work. Ironically, this was the very position Peter held before he left that year. Jennifer is now remarried to a man named William, whom they met at work. I had a chance to chat with William at the wedding rehearsal dinner. He was a seemingly stable man and told me that Jennifer had confessed to him the reasons why our marriage ended and was deeply remorseful for her behavior back then. I just nodded and didn't say much. The wedding ceremony went well. When I held Emma's hand as we walked down the aisle of the church and saw the happy smile on her face, I knew it was all worth it. Rachel sat in the front row, watching us tenderly, with Lily, who had dozed off a bit, in her arms. This is the moment when all that has passed is turned into a blessing. At the wedding reception, guests enjoyed wine and food. Tom and Emma were happily receiving everyone's well wishes, and they planned to fly to Hawaii the next day for their honeymoon. A gift from Rachel and me, plus a sizable check for a down payment on a home. Just then I noticed that Jennifer was walking towards Rachel. My heartbeat suddenly sped up a bit, but quickly calmed down. I watched them talk from a distance, Rachel keeping a graceful smile on her face the whole time. It didn't take long for Jennifer to come toward me. "Michael," she whispered, "can I ask you for a dance?" She looked in Rachel's direction. I've asked Rachel's permission. I look over at Rachel and she nods at me. So I took Jennifer's hand and walked to the dance floor. As the soothing music played, we began to sway gently. It was an amazing feeling, as if I had gone back in time, yet it was very different. "Michael," Jennifer looked up at me near the end of the dance, "I want to apologize to you for what happened 10 years ago. I finally realize now how stupid I was. As happy as I am to have found William, I never stopped regretting hurting you in the first place. It makes me happy for you to see you and Rachel so happy, but at the same time it makes my heart ache to think about what could have been our life." I sighed softly. "Jennifer, let bygones be bygones. I forgive you, and I wish you and William happiness. To be honest, I've had a chance to talk to him, and he's really a nice guy." "Yes, he's a good man." Jennifer smiled, tears in her eyes. "We've both found our own happiness, haven't we?" "Yes," I said, "and in a way, we have you to thank for choosing it in the first place. If it wasn't for that weekend, I might never have had the courage to face my feelings for Rachel." When the music ended, I took Jennifer's hand and escorted her back to William. Then I walked over to Rachel, who was babysitting a tired Billy and Lily with Kevin. Looking at the gentle smile on her face, I thanked fate once again. At the later party, I saw Ashley and Kevin joking around with a group of young men, Billy and Lily chasing and playing on the lawn, and Emma and Tom reveling in their newfound joy. Jennifer and William have also found their happiness. And I, standing next to Rachel, knew I had made the best choice. As night falls, the stars begin to twinkle in the sky. Rachel and I stood in the garden outside the church, looking at the city lights in the distance. She leaned over my shoulder and whispered, "Looks like everyone got the ending they wanted." I wrapped my arms around her. Yes, there were some twists and turns, but it ended well. Thinking about that weekend 10 years ago that changed everything, I couldn't help but feel the wonder of fate. The pain and anger I felt at that time eventually led me to true happiness. Rachel tilted her head and looked at me in the moonlight. "Do you regret it?" "Not at all." I kissed her down. It was the best decision of my life. On the way home, Billy and Lily were asleep in the back seat as Kevin softly discussed the details of the wedding with us. I shook Rachel's hand with gratitude in my heart. Life gives us second chances, and we've all made the most of them. That weekend that was supposed to be painful ended up being the happiness of today. That's the end of today's story. For more captivating tales, hit subscribe and never miss an episode.